DIIV, Frog in Boiling Water, album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest fourth album from New York City-based shoegaze and dream pop act DIIV. They've been at it for about a decade now. And their 2012 debut, Ocean, this thing really did catch me off guard. It took me a little time to actually listen to the damn thing, mostly because I wasn't really listening to a lot of modern shoegaze at the time. But I did get around to listening to it, and I really loved it. The production was really great, the dreamy aesthetic was really pleasing, and Zachary Cole Smith's lovelorn lyrics and very dreary, very monotone vocals just felt like home to me at the end of the day, if that makes sense. And I'm not going to sit here and say that this album really sort of kick-started this rebirth of modern shoegaze that we're in right now, as we are very much in it. But for me, at least, it certainly did. Now, their follow-up album, Ocean, it's a toughie. I don't want to outright say it's a bad album or it's a misstep for the band, but it also is very, very long. And while there are great moments here, it's not exactly the big, grandiose, artistic leap that I always hoped the band would take. Now, we did get that, though, with the band's last album, Deceiver, one of my favorite albums of 2019 when it came out. I saluted a lot of things about this album, specifically just how gritty and much darker and abrasive this thing was. To me, this is a modern shoegaze classic and just had some of my favorite tracks from the band. It really was very eye-opening for me to see the band, playing this focused and raw. It excited me. And ever since, I have been very excited to hear where the band was going to go next, and here we are a few years later, with some very weird and off-kilter singles leading up to this thing that did excite me. Let's chat about this thing. The album starts off with In Amber, and in a lot of ways, this kind of picks up right where their last album picked off, and honestly, it did take me a few listens to really enjoy this as an intro. It didn't really hit me the first few times I listened to it, but it has really grown on me ever since. It's very gritty, it's very dark, it's got a little teeth to it at times. But outside of that, this is business as usual in the best way. We got the dreamy aesthetics, the very, very gloomy, very lovelorn vocals. And I just love this lonely guitar solo that leads into this extended jam. In a lot of ways, this is home to me. It's beautiful. The production is immaculate. And in a lot of ways, this is just the intro that I wanted to hear from the band. I've enjoyed Brown Paper Bag since it dropped as a single. It's probably one of the most complete sounding tracks here. And listen, it's a thick boy. This track is a sluggish one for sure that you're going to have to sit with. But it's just so pensive and so angsty. It's got a little snarl to it. And the jammy passages, once again, they are one of the most interesting things about this album, especially because they are just so easy to get lost in. It's classy, very dreamy modern shoegaze and dream pop that's done right. I mean, call me a sucker, but I really do feel like DIIV are really onto something with these latest string of albums that they're on. Really do love Rain on Your Pillow as well. As a matter of fact, it's a personal favorite of mine. Probably my favorite single that was dropped leading up to this thing, and a major, major reason that I was so excited to hear this. One thing that this track really does well is a sense of mystery. There is a mystique to this track that is refreshing. I love the vocal harmonies here that just seem to haunt this very pensive riff. And the way that this track opens up eventually and has some really very nice, very classy dream pop elements. It's a major standout, maybe the best track here. On the other hand, this album's title track is one of the weirdest and sort of off-kilter tracks here. It's a track that when it was dropped as a single, it did take a little while to warm up to me, but it did. Everything about this track just seems like it's drooping and melting in an off-kilter angle, but it's a very colorful mess. And yeah, as far as a DIIV album goes, this is a little rough around the edges. Compared to Deceiver, I would say this album is a little bit harder to get into. It's going to take you a few listens. But honestly, I'm just so comfortable getting lost in these soundscapes. And there's just something so hypnotic about it. It's really, really good. Everyone Out is also very solid. I love how pensive the riff is, once again, and how immaculate, how interesting this atmosphere around it is. From a production stands. I mean, look no further. This track just sounds amazing. Also, the tension on this track, the pensiveness to it. Hearing this on a lot of the singles leading up to this album, including this one, it's exciting for me. And yeah, it doesn't get to that big, raw explosion, but DIIV are still cooking and still have a lot of really interesting ideas. And once again, there is such a mystique to this track. So far, it's been another solid recording from DIIV, one that just gets me in the mood to listen to more just great modern shoegaze. It's another fine example of it. But then I hear tracks like Reflected, and I'm gonna tell you right now, this album is not as consistent as Deceiver. By far of all the tracks here, this one has lessened on me the most. I mean, I feel like if this was rolled out as a single, I feel like my exact reaction would be, oh, more of the same, huh? Sadly, that's kind of what it sounds like. But I don't know, this just sounds like a big heaping spoonful of where we've been. And the more I listen to it, the more I realize it's just not for me. And Somber, the drums, I have a lot of the same feelings on, and it's a shame because I feel a lot of potential with this track. I don't know, this riff is just way too light and fluffy for me, though. It's one of the more absent-minded tracks here, which usually could really work in a modern shoegaze track, but it's just not hitting. Especially because the verses just kind of meander around and don't really do much. And it's really frustrating because in the final, minute, things get actually really beautiful, but it's just too much to get there. So yeah, this is not as up to snuff as the Deceiver record, but honestly, this is still a really great example of where shoegaze is at right now, and DIIV still sound like they have a lot of fresh ideas. Little Birds is really nice. I mean, honestly, of all the tracks here, this one gave me the chills from the word go. This glistening riff, the determination, and just how pensive it is, it's really refreshing. The drum machine also on this track, I feel like that's something that could be just so sloppy, but it makes this track really hypnotic. Everything about this track is DIIV where I want to hear them right now, and the final minute here is one of the most sobering on this entire record. SoulNet, I really do love this as well. This was a late stage single for the album, and it's a really good one. As a matter of fact, it's one of the darkest tracks here. I wish we got more risks like this. It's pensive, it's slow-paced, but it's really kaleidoscopic and colorful as well. And yeah, you may have to sit with it, but let me tell you, the rewards are worth it. And some of the guitar tones by the end are just plain freaky. Once again, I wish I heard DIIV taking more risks like this. And Fender on the Freeway is one of the most formless and genuinely experimental cuts on this entire record. But that doesn't mean it's still not absolutely jam-packed with emotion and love and passion and lovelorn lyrics, and they sound great. It's sluggish, it's stoned, it's dreary, it's colorful, it's all these things and more, and those are all good things. It feels like home. This almost sounds like a cover, but one that's done really, really well. A lot of this album just makes me happy, and yeah, I don't think this is as full or as a complete or as an interesting album as Deceiver, and I wish that we heard maybe one or two more risks, and man, when this album is off, it just gets off track really fast. But still, if you're looking for another very solid helping of modern shoegaze that's got a little bite to it, show that this genre still has a lot going for it, and as far as ideas go, check this thing out. I think DIIV really still sound like they're one of the more decent acts, even if they haven't pushed themselves completely on this new album. I have no problem giving this a very, very light 8, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.